Well, it is time for Left, Right, and Who's Wrong. And Kirk Whatley, who used to be on with us quite more often, hasn't been here in a while, so now you're back on the beam. You just came from a anti-gun control rally.
That's correct, in North Brookfield.
So what was that all about? Talk about the whole, the energy and all that.
Well, the energy basically is that this is a constitutional right. It's been upheld by the Supreme Court, and what's happening right now, what's being proposed at the state level and the federal level, is going to have absolutely zero impact on crime. We have history to take a look at. One thing I want to jump right into is the Sandy Hook shootings. Now, as anybody who's aware of that, it absolutely rocked the country. It rocked the nation. It was a horrible, horrible, horrific event. However, it is being politicized beyond acceptance. And I say that because the Sandy Hook shooting is being used to pass this so-called assault rifles ban. Well, NBC News, Pete Williams, this is not some far right-wing news organization, but NBC News and Pete Williams went on the air and announced that the AR-15, which was originally everybody was told was the weapon that killed everybody, was not even used. What was used was 4 handguns. So this AR-15 gun ban is based upon a lie. That's the very first thing to get out there. And the politicians are running with it. They're using it for political expediency, and it's inexcusable. It's absolutely horrific they would do that.
Let's talk about the executive order and background checks. And when background checks, they're talking about background checks for private gun sales, things like that. They're talking about limiting the amount of bullets you can have, the magazines and all that, these weapons. What's wrong with that?
Well, that's a great question and takes a long time to answer. First of all, the NRA and every pro-gun organization has come out on record and saying they're in favor of background checks. The problems is that the two problems with it. One is that the states are not submitting information to the national database in a timely manner. So there's a state issue there. The other issue is that we take a look at the psychologically challenged individuals who should not be getting access to the firearms. They're supposed to be listed in that national background check database. Far too many states lag in reporting that into the national database. So again, every pro-gun group supports wholeheartedly that instant background check. Absolutely, let's do that. What
are we complaining about here?
What do you mean?
Why do people in the NRA find great fault with the executive order, what Obama's want to do to come out of Joe Biden's task force?
It's not so much the instant background check. There are very few organizations that oppose the instant background check. The NRA has been a huge pusher of the instant background check, along with the Second Amendment Foundation and Gun Owners Action League. What we're looking at with the executive order is how much by decree can this president infringe on Second Amendment rights. Now, first of all, the idea of limiting a clip to 10 rounds in it, or if you're in New York, 7 rounds, okay? That has no impact on crime whatsoever. We had the 1994 Clinton assault ban that limited magazines to 10 rounds. It expired in 2004. I challenge anybody, I invite anybody to go look on the FBI website for the crime statistics during that period, from 1992 to 2011, which is the last year reported.
Can we back up a little bit? This I would prefer to be statistic-free radio. What I'm doing in the morning here is statistic-free radio, because any statistic you can bring up, I can go to another study that refutes that. So let's back up and let's get a little bit man-to-man. Let's get a little bit emotional here. What exactly is going on here? I'm kind of in agreement with you anyway. I think that this is rhetoric. I think that what Obama's trying to do here is rhetoric. I don't think it's going to do anything. I don't think it's going to stop murders or of any kind. But these weapons that carry all this potential, that have all these magazines and that can fire like that, okay, we need these for what?
Well, first of all, there's a lot. Oh boy, that opens a whole new can of worms.
Well, that's a can of worms we can deal with right now.
First of all, the AR-15, the civilian version of these guns, are a semi-automatic. One squeeze of the trigger gives you one shot. Fully automatic, that the press constantly calls these things, is one squeeze of the trigger gets you until the clip is empty or magazine is empty. So you got to get the right terminology. So these are semi-automatic firearms. We also need to point out that the mechanism, the mechanics of how these guns work are identical to what everybody accepts as legitimate hunting rifles. The only thing that makes the difference in politicians' eyes and people who are not informed is the cosmetics. The gun is black. The gun has a pistol grip. Oh, my God. No, the mechanism is absolutely identical to what's recognized as legitimate sporting rifles. Now, why does somebody need something like a 10-round or a 30-round magazine? There is the idea of limiting the amount of ammo that somebody can have in a magazine. I know the state is looking at that, and I've argued with John Sybeck about this as well. He's in favor of the 10-round ban. It's not going to accomplish anything. When you look at doing something, and I've got to disagree with your statistics right there, because when you start getting into emotion...
This is statistic-free radio, but go ahead.
Right, but by not accessing... I'm using FBI data. I'm not using NRA data or anything like that. But when you get involved in emotions, that's when things start getting eroded. That's when rights start being taken away. And somebody may not care if my rights as a gun owner get picked at and picked at and picked at because, well, I don't have a gun. I don't really care. But you know what? What happens when a right that is important to you starts to get picked at and picked at and picked at? We need to make a stand and say what they're doing is not constitutional, it has no impact on crime, and it's not going to resolve anything.
I pretty much agree with you there. It won't have any impact on crime. A person who wants to do what these people do is going to find a way to do it anyway.
So why do it?
If Lanza didn't shoot his mother in order to get his mother's weapons and bring him to the school, okay, fine. No background check is going to protect us from Adam Lanza. Nothing like that will ever happen. It doesn't matter anyway. What would you have Obama do here, though? Obama's under pressure to do something. Obama has not been a guy who's been screaming and yelling about gun control over the years. He's reacting to this very situation. He didn't react at all to Aurora. He didn't react at all to Columbine. Didn't react to any of these things. But, he's had some rhetoric over the years. But now, you're in Obama's position right now. He got to do something here. Obviously, the pressure is on him. The gun is to his head. What would you have Obama do?
Nothing.
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 He can't do nothing.
Here's the reason why. Okay,
They'd throw him out of office in a rail.
Oh,
he
no,
has to do something.
All the media's in his pocket. But anyway, so here's the reason that he should do nothing, okay? First of all, every mass shooting that has happened recently, okay, has happened in a gun-free zone, be it a school, be it a mall, be it a movie theater. The Aurora shooter, and I don't use their names, I use the locations. The Aurora shooter passed by 7 movie theaters to get to the one movie theater in the area that was gun-free. To him, in his mind, that assured him he'd be the only one there with a firearm. Everybody, all the mass shooters have done that. Second of all, Obama is on record as an Illinois state senator as being anti-gun. He's on video saying that nobody has the right to have a gun except for the police and the military. Obama voted against homeowners being able to stand in their home and use a firearm to protect their home and their loved ones from an intruder.
How often does that happen, by the way, the intruder that comes in and you have to reach for your gun? How often does that happen?
It actually happens quite a bit.
Statistically,
Statistically, yes. It happens 1.5 to 2.5 million times a year.
Let me write that down. I got to memorize that statistic.
Yep.
Okay, let me ask you this. The gun soars, I think you will have to agree, have soared since Newtown because people are afraid that Obama's coming for your guns.
Obama's
right?
The gun salesman of the century.
He's going to, yeah, exactly. I agree. So everybody's now lining up to get guns. They couldn't even fill the orders. Right? Couldn't even, the gun manufacturers can't even keep up with this. All right. I'm not a gun owner. I've had a gun in my hand. I fired guns. I'm not a gun owner, not a gun enthusiast. Do I have to get a gun now because everybody else is going to be armed?
No.
Well, no. Then how do I protect myself?
That's one of the beauties. John Lott, you don't like statistics, but Professor John Lott did a study, and it showed for every 1% increase in firearms ownership in a state that violent crimes decreased by 4.1%. So the idea of carrying concealed, if I'm carrying concealed, nobody knows that. By allowing someone to carry concealed, you're a radio personality. You're very well known. You might be carrying concealed. No, somebody's not going to take that chance that you might be. More crimes, more guns equals less crime. It's been proven over and over.
It seems to me, if you and I got into a tiff, this would be unlikely. You're 7'4", I'm 2'3", so it would be unlikely when we get into a tiff. Although I've got a temper, I could see myself doing that. One of us has a gun. This, to me, colors the situation completely. One of us has a gun, because if one of us should start to get beat upon, you've always got that gun to reach in your back pocket. So I think it colors your decision-making, certainly, because I can do anything I want here because I've got the trump card. No. So that's what scares me about this thing. It's you can't be protected. The police can't protect you. No one in the world is going to protect you, and gun laws are not going to protect you. It seems like we're all going to have guns, right?
No.
No,
not at all. What happens, that's the argument that all the anti-gunners, the Brady Group, and people like that use. Whenever a state wants to carry concealed, fender benders are going to turn into Wild West shootouts and so forth and so on. No, first of all, as a group, firearm owners are some of the most law-abiding people out there.
How do we know this? How do we know this? Here's what when you mentioned that, because a lot of people have mentioned this. Gun owners generally are law-abiding citizens.
Yes.
How do you know that? We're all a bunch of nuts to begin with. All of us. We're a bunch of nuts who could fly off the handle at any minute. All right? So how do we know that these are law-abiding? They're only law-abiding citizens until something happens.
No, not necessarily. Look, we got every state in the United States of America has a concealed carry law except for Illinois. Chicago is the murder capital of the country. Okay? So we've got this, every state out there except for Illinois allows concealed carry. Now, if we were looking at, somebody cuts in front of somebody at a movie line, somebody cuts in front of somebody at a checkout at the grocery store, and oh my God, they switch and they start shooting people all around them, it would be going on. It would be happening, but the fact is it's not. When the Heller decision came down, which allowed citizens in Washington, D.C. to own firearms, it was within 1 month that crime dropped by 1/3 and has remained low. Every state that passes a concealed...
That sounds like a statistic.
It is a statistic. Because when we look at these things, we need to look at the reality of it. Because what happens when we start passing laws based upon emotion is that's when our rights start to get eroded. And that's what's happening in Massachusetts, New York. The New York State Sheriff's Association came out and blasted Governor Cuomo's gun control law that he passed, saying ineffectual, unenforceable, and it's just going to screw things up.
All that I believe in. All that, what you just said, unenforceable, means nothing. I understand all that. Again, we come back down to, you got to do something. He can't do nothing. Obama can't say, well, that's too bad about those poor kids. Even if what he's doing is rhetoric, even what if he's doing is phony, he's got to do something.
What you do is you mandate the states report to the Instant Background Check National Database. You mandate that they get the records up to date pronto. You mandate that psychologists or psychiatrists, when they have a patient who dreams and fantasizes about mass murder or killing somebody, that name has got to be entered into the database.
A lot of these nuts don't even have that kind of medical care or psychological care. A lot of these nuts can just slip through anyway.
Well,
it's very easy to get a gun. Would you agree?
No, I don't. And actually, I have a challenge for you.
I could get a gun today.
I have a challenge for you, Bob.
You have a challenge for me.
I have a challenge for you. I want you to go to your hometown.
My hometown.
I want you to walk into the police office and say, I want to get a pistol.
Okay.
And I want you to report back to the listeners what you have to go through to get the pistol.
What are we talking, 30 days?
Go find out.
I won't survive that long. 30 days.
No, it's a challenge. I challenge you to go do that in your hometown and report back to the listeners what they do.
I don't even have to go to. I go to Springfield right now and get a gun. On the street.
Do it legally.
Do it legally.
Do it legally.
Oh, do it legally.
Yes. Go to your hometown police department.
That's no fun at all.
But go through the process. It's not as easy as people think.
Well,
to get it legally.
It ain't going to take you 5 years either.